If Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev proved anything, it's that wrestling gives a fighter the edge in MMA. But there are a lot of grappling disciplines from all around the world, and not all are created equal. In Afghanistan, Azerbaijan, Iran, and Turkey, they practice Zurkani, which translates to the House of Strengths. This form of grappling was created 1,000 years ago to train warriors for battle, using tests of physical strength and flexibility. With Azerbaijan, Turkey, and Iran all being in the top 10 of the World Wrestling Championships medal tally, it's clearly effective. But as we said, wrestling is a global phenomenon. You'll find variations of folk-style wrestling everywhere, from the deserts of the Middle East to the deepest jungles of South America, to the Nuba Mountains of the Sudan. You'll find traditional forms of grappling everywhere because of how effective it's been proven to be in a fight. But grappling isn't always completely serious. The Seminole Indians of Florida in the United States wrestle alligators because their people have been doing it for generations. And who doesn't want to say they've wrestled with a dinosaur? Then there's the German Fingerhaken, or finger wrestling. In all seriousness, this form of grappling was once used to settle disputes in the Alps as early as the 17th century. Two contestants sit at a table, thread a finger into a strap between them, and the winner is the one who can pull their opponent across the tabletop. It sounds weird, but in the United Kingdom, there's annual gravy wrestling, shin kicking, and toe wrestling tournaments, none of which are going to help you win anything. Traditional Chinese wrestling has long been overshadowed by other national forms of martial arts such as Kung Fu and Sanda, but it's making a comeback. The color and costumes of Mexican lucha libre are world famous. The athletes are incredible, and the pantomime-like performances make them local and national heroes. But you're probably more aware of professional wrestling and the WWE, formerly known as the WWF. Except you might not know that pro wrestling has thrilled fans around the globe for over a century. The idea was simple. Traveling athletes put on wrestling bouts, but real wrestling causes injuries, so they'd script the matches instead. Over time, those matches got more and more flamboyant. Today, Brock Lesnar is one of the biggest draw cards professional wrestling has ever known. While his pro wrestling techniques probably didn't help too much in the cage, you have to assume his time in the WWE injected him with a size and strength advantage. Speaking of size and strength, perhaps the most serious and ritualistic of all the wrestling disciplines is sumo. But how useful it is as an MMA discipline is questionable. The great Akebono Taro, a 6'8", 500-plus pound sumo grand champion, one of the greatest sumos of all time, tried his hand at kickboxing and MMA. His combined record was 1 win and 13 losses. So let's get back to the most useful disciplines. When most people think of wrestling, they probably think they're thinking about Greco-Roman wrestling, developed thousands of years ago in Greece and Italy. This is the form of wrestling that's been in the Olympics forever. What they're probably thinking about, though, is freestyle wrestling, which has the same basic aims, i.e. get your opponent to the mat and control them, but it's not quite the same. In Greco-Roman wrestling, you can't attack the legs, so you have to pick your opponent up. That means torso, arm, and head control is key, and you have to be strong, really strong. Freestyle wrestling, on the other hand, was developed in England from catch wrestling. In freestyle wrestling, you can grab a hold of just about anywhere to get a takedown, and that's a game changer. In MMA, the ability to attack and defend single and double leg takedowns is absolutely crucial. Just ask Ben Askren, a freestyle and folk style wrestler of prodigious talent. Funky Ben was so good, he went 19-0 before his first loss, with almost nothing but wrestling because his striking was, not good. But his opponents simply couldn't deal with his wrestling prowess. Other freestyle phenoms include Henry Cejudo, who added some slick striking to his wrestling, and Daniel Cormier, who held the UFC light heavy and heavyweight titles. The other Olympic grappling sport is judo, which also focuses on getting your opponent to the ground, but it throws in submissions for good measure. Ronda Rousey dominated with her Olympic silver medal judo technique and a killer armbar. Shinya Aoki is an elite judoka with a third-degree black belt. He mauls opponents with some of the slickest takedown and submission techniques you'll ever see. The Brazilians created their own jiu-jitsu, which focused almost entirely on submission skills. And it's been amazingly effective in MMA since Royce Gracie used it to win the very first UFC event. In the UFC, Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira, BJ Penn, Fabrizio Verdun, Anderson Silva, Kamaru Usman, and Charles Oliveira are all champions with BJJ black belts. The fact every MMA practitioner trains extensively in the art tells you everything you need to know about its effectiveness. But there's one more discipline you shouldn't ignore. Russia's Sambo is a relatively new grappling art that was long snubbed in the world of MMA, but that's quickly changing. Basically, Sambo takes the best and most practical bits of all the martial arts, including striking for combat Sambo, and they combine it into one super practical and super effective martial art. The all-time great, Fedor Emelianenko, was a 3-time Sambo world champion, and he went undefeated at heavyweight for a decade. After him, 2-time Sambo world champion Khabib Nurmagomedov made everyone stand up and pay attention when he crushed Conor McGregor to retain the UFC lightweight title. With his immaculate Sambo skills, the Eagle went undefeated for his entire MMA career, and now he's gone into coaching. And how's that going for him? His protege, Islam Makhachev, picked up the UFC lightweight championship after going on an 11-fight win streak. So if you still don't take Sambo seriously as a grappling powerhouse, you aren't taking MMA seriously. Thanks for watching. And remember, if you want more fight sports in your life, just hit the subscribe button.